The Patterson-Gimlin film stands as one of the most iconic and debated pieces of evidence in the search for Bigfoot, capturing a fleeting glimpse of the legendary creature in its natural habitat. Filmed in 1967 by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin in the remote wilderness of Northern California, this grainy footage remains the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation among believers and skeptics alike. While skeptics dismiss it as a clever hoax, many researchers and enthusiasts argue that the Patterson-Gimlin film is the clearest and most compelling footage of Bigfoot ever captured, offering valuable insights into the elusive creature's appearance, behavior, and existence, and noting that over the years, skeptics haven't been able to reproduce the creature's same movements, along with never being able to provide a suit. The Patterson-Gimlin film begins with Patterson and Gimlin riding horseback through the rugged terrain of Bluff Creek, a remote area known for its dense forests and rugged terrain. As they rounded a bend in the trail, Patterson's horse suddenly reared up in alarm, its senses alerting to something unseen lurking in the underbrush. Sensing an opportunity, Patterson leapt from his horse and began to film, capturing a creature unlike anything he had ever seen before. The film depicting the creature has garnered significant attention due to how clear it is, with many researchers saying that it captures the movement of its muscles and provides close-up shots of its facial features and body anatomy. Many experts have pointed out these clear visuals, suggesting that the creature in question is likely female. As a result, this footage is now considered one of the most definitive representations of Bigfoot that we have. The in-depth analysis of the visuals, particularly the portrayal of muscle movement and detailed anatomical features, has sparked discussions and debates among researchers and enthusiasts alike. However, a photograph that emerged on the internet back in 2022 has started to make the rounds again, and not only does this photograph show a clear depiction of Bigfoot, but it's one that many people haven't seen before. In the rugged wilderness of the Lewis River region in Washington state, a man embarked on a journey that he said would forever alter his perception of the natural world. Armed with nothing more than a camera and a backpack, this explorer set out into the remote wilderness, adding that this was something that he did on a regular basis. The year was 1983, and John was drawn to the Lewis River region, saying that this was an area that he had hiked many times. Oddly enough, as he trekked through the dense undergrowth and towering trees, the man reported that a hush descended upon the forest, with birds ceasing their chirping, small animals freezing in place, and even the rustling of leaves falling silent. This phenomenon has long intrigued researchers and enthusiasts, leading to speculation about the possible reasons behind it and what it might reveal about the elusive creature known as Bigfoot. The silence of wildlife in the presence of a reported Bigfoot sighting is a curious and widely documented phenomenon that has been reported by witnesses across different regions and cultures. The hiker then claimed that among the towering trees and sunlight stood a figure unlike anything he had ever seen, a creature towering over 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders and powerful limbs, covered from head to toe in dark fur. With trembling hands, the man raised his camera and snapped a single photograph, a clear, unmistakable image of Bigfoot standing amidst the trees, its presence a testament to the wildness and mystery of the natural world. In that fleeting moment, the man had captured irrefutable proof of Bigfoot's existence. He said the following: "Capturing definitive proof of the creature felt like an incredible achievement. The terrain was challenging to hike, and I often found myself straying from the trail. The spot where I saw the creature was dense with trees and foliage. You can't see it in the photograph, but I had to aim the camera through the thick branches. I glimpsed the creature for just a split second as it moved between 2 trees. Had I not taken the shot at that precise moment, I would have missed it entirely. My heart raced with excitement, and all I could think about was getting home to see what I had captured." End quote. In response to the inquiry about the delay in sharing the photograph, the man expressed his attempts to do so, but highlighted the lack of attention it received each time he posted it. This resulted in his decision to discontinue sharing the photograph. It was only when the photograph was recently published on a group that investigates mysterious humanoids that it started doing the rounds. As of right now, a number of people have expressed their thoughts on the photograph. Some individuals have referred to it as the clearest image of a Bigfoot that has ever been captured, while others have stated that it is a fake. This is something that happens every time a clear photograph of Bigfoot is uploaded, according to one user who analyzes Bigfoot sightings and encounters. This user also mentioned that people are always looking for sharper images of Bigfoot, but when they get one, they immediately assume that it is a fake. The Bigfoot creature that was captured on film by Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin in 1967 is the subject of the film known as the Patterson-Gimlin film. Both men resided in the vicinity of Yakima, which is located in the state of Washington. During the month of October in 1967, two individuals who were searching for a missing person headed out on horseback and explored the wilderness regions of Northern California. They were armed with a 16mm handheld Kodak movie camera. The area close to Bluff Creek, which is located in the Six Rivers National Forest, was where they focused the most of their search efforts. Over 30 miles south of the border between California and Oregon, Bluff Creek itself is located approximately 18 miles inland from the Pacific Ocean. Bigfoot footprints have been discovered in this area in previous years, which led to the selection of this particular region. The area, which had been an isolated wilderness up until that point, was opened up to the public in 1957 when a road was built into Bluff Creek. Large footprints that resembled human footprints were discovered by workmen in the construction of roads in the soft dirt, and these footprints were reported to the press by Jerry Crew in October of 1958. In the early afternoon, it's reported that Patterson and Gimlin saw a female Bigfoot lying on the gravel sandbar that was located inside the creek. The sight of the thing caused Patterson's horse to rear in fright, which resulted in both the horse and the rider falling to the ground, with Patterson being pinned underneath. As a skilled horseman, he rapidly removed himself and grabbed his camera. He was able to capture the moment, and over the course of this time period, the creature strolled away from the sandbar and into the woods in a calm and swift manner. While this was going on, Gimlin kept a close eye on the entire event while holding a firearm in case his friend was attacked by the thing. In the past, the men had reached a consensus that they would never fire at a Bigfoot unless it was necessary for them to do so in order to protect themselves. The creature, which is claimed to have a height of over 7 feet and a weight of 700 pounds, left footprints that were 14.5 inches in length and 6 inches in width. In that particular section of Bluff Creek, the soil is composed of sandy clay and has a bluish-grey hue to it. Over an extended period of time, footprints are able to be preserved very well in this sort of soil. After deciding that he intended to immediately continue the pursuit on horseback, Gimlin went ahead and did so. Patterson, on the other hand, was not in possession of his horse or his rifle, and he did not like to be left alone. It was for this reason that he called for Gimlin to come back, which he did. Following the course that the thing had taken, the guys then proceeded to follow Patterson's dilemma once it had been resolved. They discovered scuff marks in the gravel and in the stream bed, which may have indicated that the creature rushed away when it was out of the men's line of sight. They continued their journey up the creek for a considerable distance and came upon a rock that had a wet footprint of a half-foot sitting on its surface. After reaching that location, the trail continued onward into the highlands. Next, the men went back to the location where the video was being shot and investigated the path that the creature had followed along the sandbar. After observing and filming the footprints of the creature in the ground on the second film roll, they later prepared plaster casts of both the left and right foot of the creature. In that particular section of Bluff Creek, the soil is composed of sandy clay and has a bluish-grey hue to it. Over an extended period of time, footprints are able to be preserved very well in this sort of soil. The dimensions of the footprints were almost 15 inches in length and 6 inches in width. Gimlin leapt off of a stump in order to determine the distance for which his footsteps would sink into the ground in comparison to the footprints left by the monster. The findings indicated that the footprints left by the creature were more profound. Additionally, Patterson captured film video of this experiment, as well as footage of horse prints beside the prints of the creature and footage of the men's activities in the process of casting castings. Patterson was eager to get his film of the creature processed so that he could verify that he had, in fact, captured the thing in the picture. At the University of British Columbia on October 26, 1967, the movie was presented to the local audience. Those who were in attendance watched 2 screenings, and the initial screening was restricted to only those scientists working at universities. Additionally, Don Abbott and Frank Beebe, both of the British Columbia Provincial Museum, were present for the second screening, which was directed towards university scientists. In order to provide answers to queries, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were present at both sessions. The casts of the footprints that were discovered at the location of the film were also displayed to the audience. There is a lack of clarity on whether or not the second film roll was shown during these meetings. In order to comply with the tight demands, the scientists from the university were instructed to refrain from making any comments regarding the legitimacy of the footage. To this day, this organization has not issued any formal statement regarding the matter. On the other hand, the museum employees, Frank Beebe and Don Abbott, did not show any signs of restraint, and in spite of the fact that he was impressed with the movie, Frank Beebe suggested that it was highly likely to be a hoax. At this time, Don Abbott did not provide any personal commentary or opinion. Afterwards, on the same day, there was a press conference and screening for the media. Newspaper articles that were published afterward received a great deal of attention. As a result of the scientific community, which was, in a sense, either mute, non-committal, generally negative or unclear, the public's interest in the new data swiftly decreased. Hinden and Green's hopes of receiving financial support from the government in order to conduct additional research on the Bigfoot phenomenon quickly dissipated. In November of 1967, Patterson received a call from Life magazine inquiring about the possibility of a picture article being published on the film. However, prior to committing to a contract, the magazine people decided that they wanted to do their own scientific evaluation of the contents of the video. In order to accomplish this, Life secured a screening of the film at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City for the purpose of conducting a scientific screening. There was an invitation extended to Patterson to present the video at the museum. Patterson did not waste any time in seizing the opportunity and promptly traveled to New York City, accompanied by Gimlin and DeWithley. In the course of the screening, it became quite clear that the scientists were merely performing a favor for the publication. On the occasion of the screening, they exhibited a lack of enthusiasm. Before Patterson had ever arrived, it seemed as though they had already come to the conclusion that the movie was a fraud. The scientists merely watched the movie once, did not take any measurements, and did not request any stop frames to examine the video. Immediately following the viewing, Patterson, Gimlin, and DeWithley were instructed to wait outside outdoors. Within 15 minutes, the scientists declared that the movie was not genuine. As soon as they heard this information, the magazine staff members began to lose interest in the project. On the other hand, they made the decision to seek a second opinion from animal health professionals at the Bronx Zoo. It seemed as though the people who worked at the zoo had a more open perspective. It was requested that they have at least 2 replays and that they have multiple stop frames. Their ultimate judgment, on the other hand, was unfavorable. They stated that there was something wrong with the movie that they were watching. In addition to their opinion, they did not provide any other evidence to support it. After what could be considered 2 rejections, Life magazine lost interest in Patterson and his associates and did not enter into a contract with them. Despite all of this, many believers stand by the fact that the footage is genuine. Firstly, the physical characteristics of the creature in the film defy easy explanation. They reported that the creature, known as Patty, displays anatomical features that are difficult to replicate using the technology and materials available in 1967. For instance, Patty's muscle movement, visible beneath the fur, suggests a level of detail that would be extremely challenging to achieve with a costume. The muscles appear to flex and contract naturally as the creature walks, indicating a complex underlying structure rather than a simple suit. Moreover, the proportions of the creature are unlike those of a human. Patty's arms are significantly longer relative to her body than those of a human, and her gait is distinct, characterized by a fluid, swinging motion. This anatomical accuracy has been analyzed by experts in biomechanics and anthropology, who have found it difficult to replicate or dismiss as a hoax. The creature's footprints, also discovered and cast at the scene, show a distinct flexibility and depth that further support the idea of a living, weight-bearing entity. Secondly, the circumstances under which the film was captured lend credence to its authenticity. Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were not professional filmmakers. They were passionate Bigfoot enthusiasts on an expedition to find evidence of the creature. Their surprise and reaction in the film, along with their consistent recounting of the event over the years, add to the film's credibility. If the film were a hoax, it would have required significant planning, resources, and expertise, all of which seem unlikely given the backgrounds of the two men and the spontaneity of the encounter. The remote location of Bluff Creek also plays a crucial role in supporting the film's authenticity. In 1967, the area was largely inaccessible, with dense forests and rugged terrain. The likelihood of someone orchestrating such an elaborate hoax in such an isolated location is low. Additionally, the Patterson-Gimlin film was shot in broad daylight, providing a clear and detailed view of the creature, which would have been nearly impossible to achieve with the costume technology available at the time. Another compelling argument for the film's authenticity is the subsequent analysis and endorsements by various experts. Over the years, the film has been subjected to rigorous scrutiny by scientists, filmmakers, and special effects artists. Many of these experts, including renowned anthropologist Dr. Grover Krantz and primatologist Dr. Jeff Meldrum, has argued that the film depicts a real, unidentified primate. Their analyses point to the creature's unique locomotion, body proportions, and muscle dynamics as evidence that it is not a man in a suit. Moreover, attempts to recreate the film using modern technology have consistently fallen short. Special effects artists and costume designers, even with the advantage of advanced materials and techniques, have struggled to produce a costume that replicates the natural movement and anatomical detail seen in the Patterson-Gimlin film. This suggests that the creature captured on film is something beyond the capabilities of 1960s special effects. Furthermore, the film has endured over 5 decades of scrutiny without being definitively debunked. Despite numerous attempts to discredit the footage, no one has provided conclusive evidence that it is a hoax. This resilience in the face of persistent skepticism is a testament to the film's authenticity. The consistency of Patterson and Gimlin accounts, along with the lack of credible evidence against the film, reinforces the belief that it depicts a real encounter with an unknown creature. As of right now, the Patterson-Gimlin film remains one of the most persuasive pieces of evidence for the existence of Bigfoot. The anatomical details, the circumstances of the capture, the expert analyses, and the film's endurance over time all contribute to the argument that it is genuine. While skepticism will always exist, the compelling evidence presented by the Patterson-Gimlin film continues to captivate and convince many that Bigfoot is real, waiting to be fully understood and accepted by the scientific community. The mystery of the Kentish apeman. Referred to as the Kentish apeman, a Sasquatch-like creature has been reported in and around Kent County, England, since the mid-1800s. According to eyewitness reports, the creature is described as being similar in design to a large baboon-type creature, though more in the shape of a man. Standing in height from 7.5 feet to 8 feet tall, the creature is claimed to be covered from head to toe in a brown or greyish fur, walks in a bipedal motion, and possesses the supernatural ability of disappearing completely from an open field, even when the region is surrounded by a search party. Cryptid researchers believe that the Kentish apeman is of the same species as many of the North American sightings of the Sasquatch creature and may live deep underground across a series of networked tunnels. Although the sightings of the Kentish apeman began in the mid-1800s ES, every few decades, mass sightings or isolated hotspots of the creature in and around the county have been recorded. The earliest known reported sighting of the Kentish apeman was published back in 1858 in a local newspaper referred to as the Kentish Gazette. The article would describe a series of mass sightings that had persisted in the region over the span of several years throughout the mid-1850s to 1858, though was not exact in its timeline. According to the Kentish Gazette, proof that a devil creature was wandering around Kent County was reported sometime during that year's harvesting season and would ultimately lead to an independent investigation from local authorities and interested journalists. Although several sightings had already been claimed, the primary sighting used as proof of the creature was reported by an unknown farm worker who had been tending to a wheat field referred to as Buck's Farm, located within Kent County, near a small village by the name of Great Chart. According to the Buck's farm worker, as he was gathering his wheat, he claimed to have spotted a 7.5-foot tall baboon-like creature that walked on its hind legs and appeared to have been covered in a brownish-orangish fur. The face of the creature appeared to have been smooth and shown human-like eyes. At the sighting of the creature, the farm worker appeared to have entered a temporary state of fear-induced hysteria and fell to the ground, unable to move from his location until the creature left. Afterwards, the man claimed that he had great difficulty in moving, struggling to get over a fence that bordered the farm due to his affliction. Oddly enough, after the sighting of the creature, the field worker who had witnessed the creature would soon become terribly ill from an unknown disease. At the time of the illness, the Kentish Gazette reported that the field worker's deterioration was most likely a byproduct of the fright he had witnessed, though failed to describe any additional ailments that were inflicted. After hearing of the sighting, the article would describe that several large men from Great Chart would gather their weapons in search for the monster. After conducting a thorough search of the field and surrounding areas, the men gave up on the search, believing the creature to have disappeared into the thick brush of the nearby wilderness. Fearful that the creature might return, as witness sightings persisted in the area at the time, the men gathered together and travelled to another village known as Ashford with a horse and carriage to gather a group of police officers to begin a more thorough search of the creature to hunt and eradicate the animal, or to bring it into custody if it was willing and intelligent. Once in Ashford, however, the local authorities appeared dismissive of the reports and provided the official explanation that the creature was nothing more than an escaped baboon from a travelling zoo that they had been aware of for some time. Though no further mention of armed men engaged in hunting the creature is reported, several more sightings were recorded by the Kentish Gazette over the next few weeks. The article would detail the following paragraph on the series of sightings, leaving the information vague and mysterious. While one party, probably inclining to the supposition of the thing being His Satanic Majesty harboured thereabouts, took a horse and cart and went to Ashford in order to bring back aid from the police in taking him into custody. Since then, it is reported that the animal has been seen in several adjacent parishes, but we have not heard of its capture or of any damage done by it, except indirectly, through persons trampling down the wheat in Mr. Greenhill's field while in search of it. The last reported sightings of the creature would be reported several weeks after the initial incident at Bucks's farm. The first would be reported by a young girl who claimed to have seen the creature on a Tuesday near the small town of Newgate Wood. According to the girl, despite having been frightened by the creature, she had stayed and watched the monster for a considerable amount of time, allowing her to get a good look at the strange beast and its behaviours. The girl would claim that the creature stood at around 8 feet in height and was covered in a shaggy fur that covered all around its body except for its face, which seemed remarkably human. The creature appeared to have had elongated, monkey-like arms and walked around like a human with a long gait. Before long, the creature would disappear into the surrounding wilderness. Later that same day, a shepherd who had journeyed with his sheep to an open, grassy field claimed to have spotted the creature amongst his livestock, causing him to quit his job and return home immediately after his encounter. Given the creature's close proximity to the sheep, one last hunt for the monster was performed as local townsfolk began to worry that the monster could have been connected with the many different livestock disappearances recorded in the area. Utilising the entirety of the national school members and students, the group scoured the forests of the parish but were unable to locate the creature anywhere in the region, despite the many repeated sightings. In recent years, many researchers have started to connect the sudden mass sightings of the Kentish apeman creature with the unearthing of a series of networked tunnels discovered near the edges of Kent County, referred to as the Chiselhurst Caves. According to a recent article published by the local news organisation of Kent County, known as Kent Live, the Chiselhurst Caves have been at the centre of a wide number of supernatural rumours and conspiracy theories dating back to their rediscovery in the early 1800s. Stretching for over 22 miles, the caves are made up of a complex, interconnected, maze-like series of tunnels that are all man-made in origin and are believed to date back to a period prior to the oldest known human civilization. The earliest known record of written reference to the caves was recorded back during the early 9th century, in which a Saxon charter made reference to the caves, though was unaware of their size as they had yet to be explored. This reference, however, is only a recent recorded account of the caves, as the Vice President of the British Archaeological Association believes the caves to have been used as a place of significant religious and spiritual importance by the Druids, with many carvings into the side of the chalk caves seemingly being used as evidence of Druidic altars. Eerily enough, many of these ancient Druid carvings appear to depict human and monkey-like faces in the side of the walls. The Chiselhurst caves would not be rediscovered and used until the early 1830s to the 1860s, when local villages would use the chalk caves as a mining location to dig for chalk and lime. It is around this time that the reported sightings of the Kentish apeman would suddenly be recorded, alongside countless stories of supernatural sightings of ghost-like entities in the mines. The mines would then be closed around 1860, around the same time that the sightings of the Kentish apeman would halt. The cause for the closing of the mines was never recorded. Researchers believe that the entirety of Kent County may potentially house thousands of miles of more undiscovered man-made chalk cave systems more than 30 meters below its surface, given that the entire region is rich in chalk deposits that make an incredibly easy medium for carving complex stable tunnels. Additionally, one of the most peculiar aspects of the Chiselhurst caves are the strange vertical shafts that appear to descend directly into the caves that are difficult to locate from above ground, matching many of the early Kentish apeman legends of the creature mysteriously sinking and disappearing into the ground. Even more troublesome today, the British Archaeological Association believes that the formation of the caves may have been prehistoric in nature after the discovery of an ancient human skeleton estimated to be more than 10,000 years old, roughly around the time of the last Great Ice Age and the beginning formation of northern civilizations. This could point to the theory that a small village of people lived within the caves as a shelter towards the end of the last ice age for an unknown period of time, though their timing would have placed their group in habitation long before the earliest known complex human civilizations. The ancient network of Kent caves. The history of the caves has been investigated by only a select few people and has been described as a site dedicated to exploring the origins of archaeological discoveries. They say that when the caves first became open to the public in 1900, visitors were told parts of the system had been inhabited between 6,000 and 4,000 years ago. According to legend, the first phase of the caves were created by Druids, before being developed by the Romans and then the Saxons in around 500 AD. One of the first historical records of Chiselhurst caves is from a 13th century charter, saying they were used for the mining of lime-burning chalk and flint. It is also suggested a prehistoric skeleton found in the ceiling could point to origins dating back to 10,000 BC, when people fled for shelter during the end of the Ice Age. Tourism is said to have boomed in the area. After it was mooted, the caves were mined by the Druids, Romans and Saxons. The theory was reportedly promoted by William Nichols in 1903, Vice President of the British Archaeological Association. The Heritage Trail says this triggered further attraction, including several underground concerts. Dogs were reportedly also brought in to help find members of the public who had lost their way in the cave maze. Royal Tunbridge Wells, 1942 sighting. In recent years, urban legends researcher Neil Arnold claimed to have found several reports that detailed a Bigfoot encounter in the Royal Tunbridge Wells area by an elderly couple with a reputation in good standing. According to Neil Arnold, an older woman and her husband were sitting outside their home, relaxing on a cool summer day on a bench together, when they started to notice a loud shuffling sound coming from behind them. The couple would describe the shuffling sound similar to the sound of a large animal dragging its body across the ground. Fearing that a wild animal was nearby, the elderly couple quickly got up from the bench and started to look for the source of the sound. Within a few seconds of getting up, the elderly woman was the first to spot what she would later describe as a tall, hairy, ape-like humanoid creature that stood somewhere between 6 to 7 feet in height. After screaming and pointing at the bizarre humanoid shape, the husband would quickly turn and also see the Sasquatch-like entity as it stood roughly 20 feet from where they were standing. According to the couple, the creature's eyes stared back at them, unblinking, while glowing a burning reddish color as the creature continued towards them, taking slow, heavy steps while maintaining eye contact. Frozen in fear, the couple continued staring at the beast, before realizing the creature was soon to reach their location, causing them to break from the fear-induced paralysis and run from the area together. As they returned home, the creature appeared to have stopped moving in their direction and began to wander off away from their property, towards a nearby field. Shortly thereafter, the couple would phone family members and the local authorities to report that a large unknown gorilla species was wandering around their property and had most likely escaped from a nearby zoo. The couple would remark that the police officers who came to inspect the scene were unprofessional, as they laughed at the elderly couple and were told that nothing of the sort had occurred anywhere else nearby, dismissing their sighting as a misidentification of a possible wandering vagrant. Interestingly enough, without knowledge of the activity, at around the same time that the elderly couple had witnessed their Sasquatch sighting in the Tunbridge Wells area, the British government reopened the Chiselhurst chalk caves and began redesigning the space to be used as an understand weapons depot and manufacturing location for the war effort. Similar sightings of the Kentish apeman were recorded in the mid-1800s, at around the same time the underground networked tunnels of Kent were being used as a mining operation. This has led researchers to believe that possible secret underground chalk caves, yet to be discovered, could be used as a secret habitation of the Kentish apeman, and the use of the nearby chalk caves could potentially disturb their activity, causing them to roam above ground in isolated regions. The sudden disappearance of the 1942 Kentish apeman and the shuffling sound of the creature's body being dragged across the ground could be evidence that vertical shafts hidden underneath dense vegetation in the region and across open fields, often referred to as Dean holes, could litter the landscape and directly connect the secret undiscovered underground chalk caves with the above ground. Tunbridge Wells, Kentish apeman encounters. Across recent years, the majority of Kentish apeman sightings have been recorded across the area of Tunbridge Wells, with the most recent sighting occurring back in 2021, when a young woman claimed to be walking her dog in the less frequented hiking trails throughout the 200-acre region. It appears that the series of mass sightings in the modern day around Tunbridge Wells dates back to a 2012 sighting in which a hiker claimed to have encountered Bigfoot and contacted local reporters about his incident after contacting wildlife departments that refused to treat his claims seriously. According to the hiker, back in 2012, he had been traveling through the Tunbridge Wells Common when he claimed to have spotted an 8-foot-tall creature hiding beside the trail, matching his speed as he walked through the area. Unsure of what he was looking at, the man would call out to the creature, causing it to exit a nearby brush and confront the hiker. It was at this moment that the hiker ran from the creature in a terrified sprint after getting a good look at its strange physical appearance. According to the man, the Sasquatch creature was covered in a thick, shaggy, reddish-brown fur, had elongated arms that stretched down below its knees, and possessed bright, glowing red demonic eyes that appeared supernatural in nature. As the creature roared at him with an unearthly, guttural sound, the man ran from the area and contacted a local news agency. Since this initial sighting, over 40 separate reported sightings throughout the Tunbridge Wells 200-acre region had been recorded, though no reliable physical evidence has been gathered of the mysterious monster. Although many sightings of a Sasquatch-like creature are reported all across the British Isles, there appears to be a handful of focused areas where the vast majority of sightings take place. Kent County seems to be the epicenter of many such reported sightings, alongside a series of other supernatural encounters. For this reason, cryptid enthusiasts consider Kent County to be a supernatural hotspot, similar to many other isolated regions around the world that act as an anomalous focus of supernatural activity. The cause of a supernatural hotspot is unknown, but appears to be related to extraterrestrial activity and underground caves/caverns. In many Sasquatch witness encounters, it becomes apparent that the humanoid ape-like creatures are using undiscovered cave networks and ancient artificial tunnels as a hidden dwelling, such as in the case of the Ohio Grassman reports and the Mount Shasta supernatural hotspot reports. In recent years, many cryptid researchers have started to connect the sudden mass sightings of the Kentish apeman creature with the unearthing of a series of networked tunnels discovered near the edges of Kent County, referred to as the Chiselhurst Caves. According to a recent article published by the local news organization of Kent County, known as Kent Live, the Chiselhurst Caves have been at the center of a wide number of supernatural rumors and theories dating back to their rediscovery in the early 1800s. Stretching for over 22 miles, the caves are made up of a complex, interconnected, maze-like series of tunnels that are all man-made in origin and are believed to date back to a period prior to the oldest known human civilization. The earliest known record of written reference to the caves was recorded back during the early 9th century, in which a Saxon charter made reference to the caves, though was unaware of their size as they had yet to be explored. This reference, however, is only a recent recorded account of the caves, as the Vice President of the British Archaeological Association believes the caves to have been used as a place of significant religious and spiritual importance by the Druids, with many carvings into the side of the chalk caves seemingly being used as evidence of Druidic altars. Eerily enough, many of these ancient Druid carvings appear to depict human and monkey-like faces in the side of the walls. The Chiselhurst caves would not be rediscovered and used until the early 1830s to the 1860s, when local villages would use the chalk caves as a mining location to dig for chalk and lime. It is around this time that the reported sightings of the Kentish apeman would suddenly be recorded, alongside countless stories of supernatural sightings of ghost-like entities in the mines. The mines would then be closed around 1860, around the same time that the sightings of the Kentish apeman would halt. The cause for the closing of the mines was never recorded. Even more troublesome today, the British Archaeological Association believes that the formation of the caves may have been prehistoric in nature after the discovery of an ancient human skeleton estimated to be more than 10,000 years old, roughly around the time of the last Great Ice Age and the beginning formation of northern civilizations. This could point to the theory that a small village of people lived within the caves as a shelter towards the end of the last Ice Age for an unknown period of time, though their timing would have placed their group in habitation long before the earliest known complex human civilizations. Additionally, a repeat of the strange connection between the underground caves and activity involving the Kentish apeman would rear its head in the early 1940s. In 1942, an elderly couple would claim to have encountered the Kentish apeman in the Tunbridge Wells Common region out in an open field. At around the same time that the elderly couple had witnessed their Sasquatch sighting in the Tunbridge Wells area, the British government reopened the Chiselhurst chalk caves and began redesigning the space to be used as an understanding weapons depot and manufacturing location for the war effort. Similar sightings of the Kentish apeman were recorded in the mid-1800s at around the same time the underground networked tunnels of Kent were being used as a mining operation. This has led researchers to believe that possible secret underground chalk caves yet to be discovered could be used as a secret habitation of the Kentish apemen, and the use of the nearby chalk caves could potentially disturb their activity, causing them to roam above ground in isolated regions. The sudden disappearance of the 1942 Kentish apeman and the shuffling sound of the creature's body being dragged across the ground could be evidence that vertical shafts hidden underneath dense vegetation in the region and across open fields, often referred to as dean holes, could litter the landscape and directly connect the secret undiscovered underground chalk caves with the above ground. Researchers believe that the entirety of Kent County may potentially house thousands of miles of more undiscovered man-made chalk cave systems more than 30 meters below its surface, given that the entire region is rich in chalk deposits that make an incredibly easy medium for carving complex stable tunnels. Additionally, one of the most peculiar aspects of the Chiselhurst caves are the strange vertical shafts that appear to descend directly into the caves that are difficult to locate from above ground, matching many of the early Kentish apeman legends of the creature mysteriously sinking and disappearing into the ground. If it is to be believed that the 200-acre area of Kent houses an invisible source of supernatural welling, then it must be plausible that such a location would sport several other sightings and encounters of supernatural phenomenon separated in their likeness from the Kentish apeman. In recent decades, one of the most striking examples of a supernatural hotspot appears to have taken place in Kent during the mid-19th century. Similar to the Kentish apeman, a Sasquatch-like creature is commonly spotted in a swamp-like area of North America, with similar traits as the apeman spotted across the Kent countryside. Referred to as the Honey Island swamp monster, the creature shares its height, overall design, and its general desire to avoid both people and light. The Honey Island swamp monster is typically described by eyewitnesses as standing at a height of roughly 7.5 feet and weighing more than 500 pounds. The creature is reported as being covered in a thick coat of matted brown or grey hair that covers the creature from head to toe. In some isolated sightings, the fur of the creature was also wrapped in a large mound of pondweed. One of the more noticeable traits of the creature also includes its emitting odour, which has been referred to by eyewitnesses as horrible. The creature has also been reported under several different names, such as the Honey Island ape, the Honey Island Sasquatch, the Louisiana Wookiee, and the Swamp Monster of Louisiana. The first reported sighting of the Honey Island swamp monster was recorded by two individual eyewitnesses by the name of Harlan Ford and Billy Mills. According to the two men, Harlan Ford had been flying above the region of the Honey Island swamp in a private plane when he claimed to have spotted what he believed to have been an abandoned cabin somewhere deep within the swamp marshlands. Curious as to what was in the cabin, Harlan Ford would call up his close friend Billy Mills with the plan to go on a small adventure and investigate the abandoned structure during their free time. Several days later, sometime during the summer of 1963, the two men would journey to the Honey Island swamp and attempt to locate using the aviation charts from Harlan Ford where the abandoned structure was located. As they neared the clearing of the structure, however, they realized that the cabin appeared to have been a handmade structure from nearby trees and materials, as if someone had been illegally living within the region for several months. As they moved closer to the cabin, one of the men would soon spot something in the distance, getting the attention of their friend to also look in the general direction of what they had seen. Located near the edge of the opposite side of the clearing was a creature that the men described as being a 7.5-foot tall, hairy bipedal humanoid creature. The creature would stand almost entirely motionless for several moments, maintaining eye contact with the two men before suddenly quickly moving and escaping into the nearby underbrush. Fearing that they had stumbled upon the home of the strange swamp monster creature, the two men quickly left the region and decided never to return to the bizarre structure. Harlan Ford would later provide a quote surrounding the incident, claiming that the creature was nothing like I'd ever seen before. Ugly and sinister, and looking like something out of a horror movie. Over 10 years would pass before the two men would decide to journey back to the Honey Island swamp to get some closure on the incident. According to the report, it would be in 1974 that Harlan Ford and Billy Mills would return to the swamp for a small duck hunting trip. Although the two men had hoped for a normal hunting trip, they would soon realize that their return trip would be anything but normal. Shortly within journeying into the swampland, the two men would find several boars that had passed away throughout the area, along the edges of the marshlands. At first, the men thought that the wild boars had been taken out from nearby alligators in the water, but soon realized that the carcasses of the animals were way too far from nearby waterways to have been taken out by alligators. After a few more hours, their suspicions that the creature they had once encountered roughly 11 years ago, having been responsible for the passings of the wild boars, would soon be confirmed. Near the bodies of the boars, the men would find several massive footprints that ended in 3 large webbed toes and were unlike the footprints of any known creature. In fear that the monster was close by, Harlan Ford and Billy Mills would quickly leave the swamp. Later that night, however, their curiosity would overpower them, and they would return to the site to make several casts of the footprints for possible study or reference at a later time. Rumors surrounding the Honey Island swamp monster claim that in the early part of the 1900s, a circus train was believed to have derailed near the location of the Pearl River that runs adjacent to the 20-square-mile swamp. The carts of the train are claimed to have housed several species of exotic animals, such as elephants and chimpanzees. Although the majority of these exotic animals would soon pass away within the harsh environment of the swamp, it was believed that the chimpanzee species survived and may be responsible for the humanoid sightings of the Honey Island swamp monster. Unfortunately for this theory, however, no evidence of a train derailment nearby the Louisiana Pearl River is recorded. Additionally, no chimpanzee species has been recorded of reaching a height of over 7.5 feet, of which is commonly described as the Honey Island swamp monster. Several skeptics have connected the sightings of the Honey Island swamp monster to the locations of known hotspots of the Louisiana black bear. Unlike the typical North American black bear, the Louisiana black bear is a subspecies of bear that's slightly thinner in its build to a typical black bear and has often been reported by experts as walking along its hind legs tremendous distances, especially when starved or underfed. Many Louisiana residents are unaware of the native bear population, as the creature was placed on the endangered species list back in 1992 after over-exploitation of its habitat and hunting of the native species brought the creature's known population down to borderline unsustainable levels. After the endangered species designation of 1992, the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries spearheaded a conservation effort surrounding the creature that would include designating specific areas of breeding and immigration for known members of the species. It is around these many areas, one of which is the Honey Island Swamp, that random witness sightings of the creatures have been made. Since the early 1970s, scattered witness sightings of the Honey Island Swamp monster were recorded with less and less frequency until the early 1990s, when the reported sightings of the creature would suddenly increase over the years. This increase in witness sightings directly coincides with the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries conservation efforts and eventually removal of the Louisiana black bear from the endangered species list.